Please stand for the pledge. Gary?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor, please.
Yes. We're going to go to pray. Father God, we come before you tonight in the mighty name of Jesus, and we ask for wisdom and understanding, Father God, to be able to lead the council in the way it should go. God, we ask for favor, Lord, to be placed upon the council, Lord. We ask for your will to be done tonight, Lord, for the appointed seat, the appointed vacant seat, God, for your will to be done there, Lord. We leave it in your hands. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Need a roll call?
Counselor Johnson,
Here.
Counselor Sabella,
Here.
Counselor Ellithorpe,
Here.
Mayor Becker.
Here.
A quorum is declared.
Okay. Modifications to agenda?
I move that we amend the agenda under F, proclamations, communications, and appointments. We need to add F1, appointment of the vacant council seat, and F2, Rio Grande County Library appointment of Timothy Armstrong. And also under P, we need to make an amendment for an executive session.
Been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to modify the agenda. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Sabella,
Aye.
Counselor Johnson,
Aye.
Counselor Ellithorpe,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Approval of the agenda.
Sorry. Can you hit it? I can get it. Got it? Yep. Thank you. Disrupt council anymore, sorry.
Approval of the agenda for minutes of regular meeting for April 19th.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 19th, 2018.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting of April 19th. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Johnson,
Aye.
Counselor Sabella,
Aye.
Counselor Ellithorpe,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Approval, review and approval of accounts payable. Everybody looked at that?
There is an
There is one in the packet, sir.
I'm sorry.
There's not one in the packet.
Okay, well,
That's
hold
why
on.
we're having trouble. Okay.
Do you have to move though?
Uh-huh.
Do you have to move?
No, because there wasn't one in the packet.
Okay.
So, appointment of the vacant council seat. We need to vote on that.
We actually have a tie.
Yeah. Charge you with you guys. Yeah, we have to discuss it in the executive session as well, because there's not much guidance in the charter. We're ready to go up and talk about it in the executive session.
Looks like we have a tie. And not really much of a procedure for breaking that tie, so maybe we can talk about that when we go into executive, see what you folks want to do.
Go ahead. Maybe keep them all waiting any longer. But that's okay.
I guess there's no choice.
There's not a procedural in the charter for dealing with that, so.
Executive session.
With our apologies, that's what we'll have to do. Okay.
Okay. Sorry to keep everybody in suspense. Rio Grande County Library appointment, Timothy Armstrong. Dear council members, at the March 13th meeting of the Board of the Rio Grande County Library District, it was voted to recommend the appointment of Timothy Armstrong to the Rio Grande County Library Board. His term will expire on December 31st, 2023. As stated by the bylaws, Article 4, Section 1, replacements to the Rio Grande County Board of Trustees shall be appointed by the recommendation of the Library Board of Trustees and shall be ratified by 2/3 majority of each of the following legislative bodies: the Board of Trustees of the Town of Del Norte, the City Council of the City of Monte Vista, and the Board of County Commissioners of Rio Grande County. Please notify the Library District in writing with your legislative body's decision. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. So we need to vote on this. Full vote, Nita, or do we just need to?
Make a motion.
Yeah, you need a motion second.
Okay.
Full vote.
Do we need a motion to accept
Yes.
his appointment?
Yes.
I move that we accept Mr. Armstrong's appointment to the Rio Grande County Library Board.
A second?
It's been moved and seconded to accept Timothy Armstrong to the Rio Grande County Library. Any more discussion? Anita?
Counselor Sabilla?
Aye.
Counselor Elliport?
Aye.
Counselor Jensen?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Mr. Douglas,
Yes, sir.
you have a scheduled appearance, so.
I do. According to our agreement, I'm supposed to come every couple of months and give you an update on how things are going with the city. And in front of you, you'll see some notes that I've given you guys about different businesses. Some of the businesses, just to be aware of, are not listed on here because they asked, they're looking at relocating and here, and they don't want anybody to know quite yet because they haven't made a decision. So there's several businesses that are not on this list. But just to go through, the first order, I guess, here is the status of online signup. So we have 42 businesses from Monte Vista that have signed up online for our online curriculum. And we have 347 that have signed up to join our Facebook group and are actively on our Facebook group and asking questions and communicating through there. So obviously the Facebook group is much more popular than the actual hard work of the online curriculum. So it takes a little bit more work there. But just to go over some of the businesses, the first list you're aware of all those businesses, so I'm not really gonna go through that, but these are businesses that I've sat down and met with on a one-to-one basis with the people. And I've either had lunch with them or sat down in their store or what have you in their business and helped them with that. New businesses or new possibilities. I'll go through some of these, but that list is probably about a third of the businesses, but they just asked again that I don't list them. But a couple of cool things is the Colorado Brewers Association, the Colorado Distilleries Association, and the Colorado Restaurant Association all have agreed to promote and send out email blasts about Monte Vista, and they all three asked for the same thing. They asked, is there a video or some sort of information that we can send out to the list, that talks about the town? So I did reach out to the production company that had done the film work previously. That's still in negotiations, by the way, but they have very generously given me links and given me all the footage of some of the stuff that they filmed here, with the exception that I don't use it for anything else but a promotional video for the town of Monte Vista. So that was very nice of them. So we can use all that to put together. I just need to get a video editor, and we can put all that together and have a promotional video to send out to businesses that want to relocate to Monte. Home Depot we're in discussions with, McDonald's we're in discussions with, Zanmei Sushi, that's a signed agreement, so we will have a sushi restaurant coming to town, and all you can eat king crab. Yeah. See, Michael Moore, that's a done deal agreement on that one. I've been coaching him. He had a business plan to do, to bring a gym to town, and I helped him work through that with the help of Fennell. I don't know if he's here or not, but with Absolute Shine, and put a deal together with those two. And so we're going to have a gym be coming to Monte here in town. Tanner Gun Show, it's the largest gun show in Colorado. They're interested in coming out and making this one of their locations, and the only location they do one in the San Luis Valley. So, the data center is approved. So what that means is basically I've talked to a gentleman that builds data centers for a living, and he's already accepted and given the okay to put a data center in. But the problem is we're waiting on Excel. He needs a lot of power, and so Excel has to up the power, and they need to be able to give him a location of where he can do that. He's ready to buy land and start the building process, and the only problem is we're waiting on Excel on that one. So if anybody knows anybody over at Excel that can pull some strings, that would be awesome. We've got a barber shop coming in, and he's ready to go, just waiting on a location. We've had a couple of locations, and he's ready to pull the trigger on one of them. We just got to figure out how to get that to happen. Now, things that I'm working on is I've been talking with three different tech schools that are looking at putting in remote locations for their tech school, and are now considering Monte. More restaurants, obviously. I'm a huge restaurant fan, as you can tell. Working on more buildings to fill. Again, we've still got several empty buildings, so I'm still working on that and trying to get those filled, and I'm trying to resurrect some of the buildings that are in disrepair, and trying to figure out ways to do that. I've got a couple more tech businesses that I've been in discussions with that are interested in relocating here, again, because of the fiber optics, and it's reasonably priced land to relocate. And somebody mentioned truck stop. That one's more for the valley. It's probably not, doesn't make sense for in town, obviously, but if we can pull that off, that would be something that I think a lot of the truckers would appreciate, since there is not really many spots for them to rent. During this interview process, it's very interesting. You get a lot of feedback from all the local businesses. And one of the things that was brought to my attention was A lot of truckers don't even like to come into the valley because there's no place for them to rest. Or if they have a tire blowout and it's after hours, they gotta wait either for opening hours or have somebody come over from Wallenberg or something like that to do a tire repair. And so, having a truck stop, I think, would help with the whole trucking and transportation business. Then a couple of things that I wrote side notes on, that's not on your list, but I wanted to bring to your attention is, one, I'd like to have your approval to put together a relocation video using the footage. And then I'd like to talk with you guys or have some more discussion about sponsoring the Potato Fest that goes on here every year. It's held by the Potato Association. I think it would be really, really wise if the city jumped on that and became more of a partner in that event. And they're totally open to that. And just a little bit of feedback, Hot Rod Drag Race people, love you guys. They say thank you for everything that the town of Monte Vista has done for them. A lot of people say they can't find how to get in contact with me, so I would like to maybe have the LBA link on the Monte Vista town site, so they can get a hold of us or find us. And then we've been working with, I recently acquired another company that does more supportive of local business, as far as like, they help with urban renewal authorities, they help with grant writing, they help with economic development, things like that. So I'm pretty excited about acquiring that company, and that'll now be part of LBA, so there'll be more services that we'll be able to offer you and help the towns with. So that's where we're at so far. I know it's not, I want more, I always want more, but I think we're off to a good start. It's gonna take a little bit of time to get the ball rolling, but I think we're off to a pretty decent start. So 2 businesses, 2 months, and a couple more coming in, at least half dozen more in the next couple months. I think we'll be good.
Sounds good.
Yeah? Any questions? No?
That's good work.
Wow, that was easy.
Yeah.
Aren't we?
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ron.
So, this question,
Forrest, for that video, do you need to pass it through here?
The relocation video.
Relocation
No,
video?
I mean, if the council would like to see it before we release it, we can arrange for that. But
I would.
think that's-
Just for fun.
Yeah, so we'll arrange for y'all to see it, you either link it to your emails or when it's ready to have a look at it.
and do we need to move to put that link on the city website? Or?
No, that's just administrative.
Okay.
I apologize for not doing that earlier, we'll get that done.
I guess I have a question about sponsoring the Potato Festival. What did you have in mind? What was involved in that?
Well, I don't know if you would need to come back up.
Fine.
Sorry. So the last city I was at, we had a miners' day, and it used to be an old coal mine town, and so the city actually put on the Miners' Day Festival. And I was talking with Forrest, I was talking with other people in the valley, and everybody says that this is supposed to be the spud capital of San Luis Valley, right? Or spud capital of Colorado. So if we are the potato capital of Colorado, then let's own it.
Why are we not promoting that?
Yeah, why are we not working together and making this more of a Monte Vista event, not just a Potato Association event? I'm not sure how much they spend on, actually I do, but I'm not sure if I can share that, but they spend quite a bit to put that event on. And without asking for anything from the city. So I would like to see more involved, jump on board with that, maybe help them with some of the expenses of the facilities, or they talked about doing a parade, maybe helping with some police, to help with escorting of the parades, or things like that. Just more involvement and make it make it so that it's a Monte Vista event.
Right, and that happens toward the end of summer, doesn't it?
I believe so, it's in the
So
fall.
late summer. Could they come to us with some kind of a proposal?
No, in all
or a
fairness, he did
question?
not, and I just talked to them the other day about it, and they said that they would be 100% on board, they would love to see more participation from Monty.
Okay, well, if they'd come to us with a
Yeah.
proposal, I'm sure we'd be on board.
Yeah.
We'd probably be all over that.
Yeah, they had nothing but good things to say, they've appreciated everything you guys have done so far, but in my opinion, that needs to be a Monte Vista event.
You're right, you're correct.
If we're gonna own potato capital of Colorado, then let's do it.
True.
That was something that you had mentioned was kind of one of your strong suits was events,
Events, yes.
festivals, and that's on my short list of things. We can talk about that some more, but.
We do need to bring more events to
Crane
town.
Festival, well, even the ones we've got.
And help with the ones we have, yes.
So this whole idea is just the beginning as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to talk to you some more.
Yeah, in all fairness, I have not sat down and talked with Forrest about this at all, on this part, so it's a little bit of a surprise to him, but yeah, I think that there is a huge opportunity in events. Since I was in the event industry, I know several people, like Tanner Gun Show, for instance. I mean, that would be a big feather in our cap, because that's the largest gun show in actually, it's probably the largest one in like 4 states, so, some of, obviously, we probably won't get those numbers down here, but I mean, I've seen 13,000 attendees in one day.
I'd be surprised.
So, yeah, I would love to see that down here.
Okay, well, if they come to us with some kind of a proposal or an idea of
Absolutely, I'll be working
what
with
kind of
them on it.
support they would seek,
Yeah,
we'd absolutely take it under advisement and
yeah, so they asked me to come to one of their meetings and kind of help bridge that gap and figure out
together.
a way to how we can work together, so,
perfect.
all right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, citizens comment. City council welcomes your unscheduled comments. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at this meeting. Wayne?
Excuse me, Your Honor. I was invited to come to the city council kind of to follow up on Ron Douglas's work and talk about a grant application that pertains.
Which is a little later on the agenda.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, you're on the list. You're on the list.
Thank you.
Wayne?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I promised my wife I'd be good, and I got a lot of people who watch and make sure I am. But I wanted to, there's been a lot of complaints about the things in the city, getting things cleaned up. But if you've driven around the city and seen Rob Vance's crew out there, and all of you know what Mother Nature did with that windstorm. It gave triple headaches for his group, but I've been around there. I've seen them working in the park, fixing leaks, taking care of leaks in the pavement, and they've been all over. And it's not just in one area. And if you've been driving around this morning all over the town, the street sweeper has been out, really busy, working all over. And I have been watching our new code enforcement officer out, and he's been all over, going to different meetings today. I've seen him all over the town, and he has been out checking things out, and
I have asked him that sometime I'd like to ride with him so I can really see what problems that the city does have that they put on his shoulders. And so I know more what is being taken care of. So the city is really working to beautify our town. And I just want the council to know the different departments that are really getting out there and taking care of a lot of things.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
I'll add to that, Rob, you and your crew did a heck of a job after that lovely windstorm. You guys did a great job. Thank you.
I don't do squat, they do.
Crippled and all. Margot?
Hello, everybody again. Margot Alexander, and I have a question. I was at the Coffee with the Cop on Wednesday morning, and our code enforcer was there giving us, what he's been doing. And I had a question. When he rounds up dogs that are running loose and takes them to the pound, is there an ordinance, and I forgot, I should have asked you, but I didn't think of it at the time, that in order to get the dog out of the pound, that dog has to be neutered? And if not, why isn't there such a rule? So we don't have a multitude of puppies and things running around, because some people, I know they can't afford it or they don't do it, but sometimes our local vets do have days where you can come in and neuter the dogs for a minimal cost. And I just wondered if there was a law on the books that enabled him to have the teeth to say, if you want your dog back, it has to be neutered.
I think I can speak to that as a shelter volunteer and employee. When Jeff brings an animal into us, depending on the condition of the animal, we'll advertise that animal has been brought in, and we don't put pictures. We insist that the owner identify the animal. We want a picture, and we want to know that we're giving the animal back to the correct person.
Right.
We have to have that dog for 5 days before we can, by law, insist that it be neutered.
Okay, I didn't know.
Or adopt it to someone else, and that's basically
When you
a
have
state
to.
law,
Yes,
right?
I know
If
that.
someone comes in the same day to reclaim their animal, we can talk until we're blue in the face, which
Okay.
we sometimes do, but we cannot make them spay or neuter.
So it has to be, okay, I just
Right.
didn't know, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, it's a good question. And once the animal actually becomes the shelter's property to adopt, we always spay and neuter.
Okay, yes, I know, we've got
Right.
animals and you have to do that.
Right, but if they
Okay.
come in before that 5-day waiting period, we can't, our
Okay.
hands are pretty
Fair enough.
tied.
I just thought, and I do want to say one more thing, thank you. You guys have been incredible. I mean, the town is going up, yes.
Thanks, Margot.
You can see it. Yeah.
Is there anybody else? No? Everybody's quiet today? Okay. Forrest, public hearing special review used for 37 Adams Street.
So, Mr. Mayor, you all would need to attend the regular meeting, open a special or a public hearing, assign that to the city attorney to run, so to speak.
We need to put it to a public hearing, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we just moved to go into public hearing?
We do that right now.
Yes,
And
sir.
assign it to the attorney.
Well, then I move we adjourn to a public hearing to determine the special review use for 37 Adams Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Go into public hearing for review of 37 Adams Street. Any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Aye.
Counselor Sedilla?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Just for some information, on April 26th, the Planning Commission met to consider a special review application from San Luis Valley Health that is here tonight, and at least the building at 37 Adams here in Monte Vista. It's a site for their physical therapy operations here in Monte Vista. And the use for the medically related business is only allowed under special review use under the Monte Vista Code. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application, but under the rules of the city comes before you on a public hearing at this point. So, I think initially we ought to probably call Forrest and just give us a little bit of history on it, and then we can call the folks from San Luis Valley Health to tell you what they're doing there. So, Forrest, I guess if you would raise your hand, we'll swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you give before this board will be the truth?
I do.
So good evening, Mayor, council members. In your packet, you have a whole bunch of paperwork that looks like this. This is the longer version. But essentially, there is a vacant business property located at 37 Adams Street, and being leased by SLB Health for the purpose of a physical therapy clinic. We did publicly advertise and provide notices to folks within 300 feet of that location. The city received no oral or written comments, either for or against this applicant. The application is complete and was properly presented. And the Planning Commission made a recommendation for you all to approve it. Staff has no objections to this request. The applicant's been, the property is actually owned by Donald L. Barton, and it's being leased by these folks. Jim Fleming's here this evening from SLB Health to talk about their part of it. But really, there's no objection on the part of the city. It did engender an interesting Planning Commission discussion afterwards after we made this recommendation, which we'll be talking to the council a little bit more about our land use chart that we have. You go down, there's these columns, and I think I have part of that in your packet. And, the Planning Commission is interested in having some council input and kind of updating some of those uses. And that should be an interesting discussion, and Councilor Johnson and I have been talking. He's actually the assigned liaison to the Planning Commission, and Planning Commission wants to take on that and Airbnb ordinance as well, which should be interesting. But basically, this is a pretty straightforward deal. It is only allowed by special review use, and staff would recommend that you concur with the Planning Commission and approve this use. I don't know if you all have any questions.
Forrest, was there any opposition at the Planning Commission?
None whatsoever.
Pretty easy.
It's a simple one.
You want to hear from?
All right, yeah, why don't we call this
Thanks.
one?
Thank you, Joel.
You both want to?
Yeah.
All right.
I do one part and Joe does the other.
Okay, so do each of you, you want to stand up, raise your right hand? Do each of you swear that the testimony before the council will be the truth?
Yes.
All right, you guys will just state your name for the record and,
I'm Joe Stevens, Director of Rehab at San Luis Valley Health.
I'm Jim Fleming, I'm the construction project manager for the San Luis Valley Health. And so we have physical, well, I'll let Joe talk about the operation, and then if you have questions on the construction side of it, I can help those. But Joe is our director of physical therapy, so.
So there'll be physical therapy at the location and occupational therapy. There'll be at one time 4 therapists max in the facility treating patients, and we treat 1 patient an hour. So there'll be, a max of 4 patients an hour there, so, or maybe a little more carryover, but all the parking in front can accommodate that kind of patient flow through that area, so.
And we're, like Forrest talked about, we're leasing the property from the Bartons, and we have a 3-year lease with options for additional 3-year terms. So we're committed to the location for 3 years at this point. And we've done, or the Bartons have done extensive remodeling in the building and turned it into a, I don't know if you're familiar with what the building was before, but it had been office space, but then the pipes froze and there was a lot of water damage in the building, so the floors had been ripped up. And a lot of the interior walls had been damaged, and those were repaired, and the floor's been repaired. We have new flooring, and we moved a couple of interior walls, but nothing real structural inside of it. So we have a nice gym in there, good-sized gym for the physical therapy. We have several different private offices for some of it for administrative use, but a lot of it's for therapy use as well. And I think it's going to be a really nice addition to the community, and it'll allow us as healthcare providers to continue providing physical therapy in the community, and what I think is a centralized location right downtown.
Mr. Fleming, how many employees do you anticipate having?
There will be 4 therapists, a clerical person, and potentially an ATC that's going to do some work out of there, but not see patients, but have it as an office space.
And when would you anticipate opening the facility?
So the move-in date would be June 4th. It's a Monday. Currently, it's actually ready to move in, but our lease is up end of May in our current location, so we'd move in June.
Any of the council members have any questions of these folks?
Where are you located now? Just curious.
On Sherman, in the gym there.
Oh, okay.
So we lease a part of that gym space.
Right. Okay.
We've been there for years, probably like 10 years.
Yeah.
You folks have anything else you wish to add?
No, I just have any questions, Bruce. It was appreciate you letting us move in there and get going with our physical therapy operation.
All right, you folks want to have a seat? Is there anyone that wishes to speak either for or against this special review use? Okay. At this point, I guess we would close the hearing and go back to the council.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it would require a motion to approve the special review use for 37 Adams.
I move that we approve the special review use.
Go back in there.
Do it, oh, you're not there yet? Okay, do it. Do it.
Council session. When you guys want to step up, go back into session.
Oh, we need a motion for that. I move we return to the general council session.
Okay, nice second.
Been moved and seconded. Back into session. Any discussion? Nita?
Counselor Ellsworth,
Aye.
Counselor Segala,
Aye.
Counselor Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Becker,
Aye.
motion carries.
Now I'm on. Okay. Now I can speak. I move that we approve the special review use for 37 Adams Street for a physical therapy office. I think it's a great addition. Thank you.
Nice second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the special review for 37 Adams Street. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Johnson,
Aye.
Counselor Segala,
Aye.
Counselor Ellsworth,
Aye.
Mayor Becker,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming down.
Look forward to seeing you there.
No, you don't.
No, well, no, I don't. I look forward to one less interview.
Thank you, guys. Okay, Forrest, now you're on the hot seat for the water, or Rob, who's on the hot seat for the water use?
I'll take it, it's easy.
I caused the problem.
That's all right. Yeah, but I think you guys are fixing the problem.
So a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. I don't remember that old joke. Okay, so dating myself, but, when we came forward, the concept of the water restrictions doesn't seem to be an issue, but the methodology that we picked for the days of watering, we thought it was simple, but then technology intervened. And we got a lot of calls from folks that have sprinkler systems. And we're like, it's really hard to program that. And I went home and looked at mine and went, yeah, that ain't the easiest thing. I got out the handbook for it and looked at it and said, yeah, maybe not. So anyway, we heard what the folks had to say, the public had to say, and took all those comments, and we came up with a much simpler methodology. So you have in front of you a resolution this evening that would repeal the previous one and would enact a new methodology for watering, which is based on days. So there'd be no watering on Mondays. Everyone would have a day on the weekend. Thanks, Rob. So essentially, odd-numbered addresses can water on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And even-numbered can water on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. No watering shall take place on Monday. Said restrictions shall not apply to the watering of gardens, because that came up as a topic. And customers with newly planted lawns can contact the city manager for exemption from the watering restrictions. And I've had a couple of folks that have called or emailed, and that really stayed the same. The restrictions would still be from May 1st through October 31st. So essentially the changes here with this new resolution is to make it a simpler methodology. I talked to 3 people a day about this on the phone, and they're all pretty darn happy with this. So we apologize for not maybe thinking about the technology piece. It was simple in my head. It seems simple enough, but honestly, we heard what people had to say, so we want to be responsive. And we hope that you will pass this resolution this evening. And we'll get this out to the public through all of our avenues tomorrow morning. And we'll move forward.
Is this a separate resolution from the other one, having built into it the rescission of the previous?
Yes, the title says establishing water restrictions on sprinkler systems and lawn irrigation and repealing resolution number 04-2018. So it makes that go away, and here's the new, better, much more logical version, I suppose.
Well, then I move we approve the resolution 05-2018, establishing water restriction amendment.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve 05-2018. Nita?
Counselor Ellipfort?
Aye.
Counselor Segola?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Forrest, I believe you're up again.
That's why I didn't sit down. What would be the resolution number on this? Is that 06, Rita?
06.
Okay. So this evening for your consideration is resolution number 06-2018. A resolution leasing 2 city-owned properties to local business assist to foster economic development. So Ron and I have been talking a lot about various buildings and this and that, and there's a couple of things that are in the works that he didn't talk about tonight, and because they're pretty much still in the works. But in regards to the Guzlo building and the Valley Publishing building, those are two lovely vacant properties that the city owns. One bordering on an eyesore, certainly. And the idea here is that this would give local business assist an opportunity to work with those two buildings and to get businesses in those. Don't actually have a lease document for you to look at tonight. If you approve this resolution, we'll go to the city attorney and create an actual lease document, which then you would approve to sign at your next meeting. Now, I did cite the state statute in here that regards leasing a building for 1 year or less that can be done by resolution or ordinance. We chose resolution because it's quicker than an ordinance, which would take 2 readings. And so essentially what this would do is, after you've approved the lease at your next meeting, if you approve this resolution, it will give Ron and LB a chance to use those as economic development tools. And ultimately, hopefully those will foster new businesses in our community or help existing businesses grow, which is the point of this exercise, I think. And in my mind, when I put on my bean counter hat, we own a lot of properties that are less than useful for the city at this point, and which generate no property tax and no sales tax. So this is an opportunity in the short term to get an opportunity to maybe generate some sales tax and also look at long-term uses for those buildings. So I certainly would hope that you'd approve this resolution this evening.
I would move to approve the resolution of 062018.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve 06-2018, leasing of the 2 city-owned properties to local business assist. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
So you can get the rest of the paperwork ready.
Yeah, and there's some paperwork.
Contracts, agreements, and leases. Ms. King?
When I heard that the city retained Ron Douglas, I was happy that you're moving forward with economic development. I contacted Forrest because I've been working in economic development projects for about 12 years in the valley. I've lived in Monte Vista for about 10, 12 years. And I know you retained Ron for about 6 months, which is a good start. But much needs to be done, and more time, I think, needs to be retained for a longer period of time. So I told Forrest about a U.S. Department of Commerce grant. It's a U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration grant in planning and technical assistance. And what I proposed was the city hire me to write an EDA grant application for about $60,000 that would retain Ron for another 12 months or so, retain a grant writer, hopefully me, and also build up the city's website to be able to attract businesses better and to advertise current businesses. In a nutshell, that's the proposal. I think that's very good news. Additional good news is that could be phase 1 of an EDA grant project. This particular grant program also includes the second phase, which allows for a longer period of time. Phase 1 would be up to 12 months. Phase 2 would be up to an additional 36 months. And phase 2, if the EDA say the EDA grant is funded, and it's likely that it would be because I've maintained a 90% success rate in the past 27 years I've written over 70 grant applications, the usual success rate you might know is about 15%. So I'll say when the proposed EDA grant project is funded, if the EDA likes it, they would invite a proposal for phase 2. And I had talked to Carol Schrader and some other council people about the needs of the city. And I also mentioned this to Forrest as well as Ron, that I think it would be a good idea to apply for phase 1 money to follow through with the project design, which would be refined in order to submit it, but to use that as a foundation to apply for phase 2 money, which could basically create an economic development department for the city. And that could be up to a three-year project. And last I looked, the funding could be up to $300,000. So in short, that's what I'm proposing, that the city retain me to complete and submit a phase 1 grant application with the idea, with any luck, that the city would be eligible to apply for phase 2 funding at the end of the 12-month period.
Mine.
Me too.
Pardon?
I'm writing.
Oh, I see. Another good aspect of this proposed project is that phase 1 would continue and deepen Ron's current efforts, but also his efforts and the grant writer's efforts, as well as the developed website. The more developed website would provide the basis for the foundation of an economic development department anyway. So it would naturally make sense to, at the end of the 12-month period, to apply for phase 2 funding and build on the efforts of phase 1.
Ms. King, you've got a very impressive list of accomplished grants.
Thank you.
And it's just a little astounding. I know a little bit about the grant writing and success rates and that kind of thing, and you're probably right in the 15% range. And yours is at 90. What do you attribute that to? You must be doing, is it a secret?
Well, I'm trained as a sociologist, and so I know how to recognize and address problems. I've administered large nonprofit organizations, so I know how to make organizations grow in terms of developing capacity. I have graduate training and a lot of experience in community development, and I think part of it is my diverse experience. I've written grants for churches and corporations. I've written grants for quite a few businesses in the valley. That's been my focus in the past about 8 years. Is my academic background is in violence prevention. And I came to realize in the course of the 30 or so years I've been writing grants that the most effective way to prevent violence is to develop a community economically. So this seems to be, I just kind of gravitated to this kind of work.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I personally feel like that's a pretty good matchup for Ron's work. But
well, look, it could extend his work up to another 12 months and really ground it and really follow through on a lot of the projects that he's already initiated. And the only cost would be to the city would be, my fee for grant writing, as well as probably some indirect, costs that would enhance the attractiveness of the grant application itself.
And what is your fee for grant writing?
$65 an hour. I submitted a proposal to Forrest. It would take about 50 hours for me to do this. But also another benefit would be that the grant application that I write for phase 1 would be the backbone for phase 2. So that's how I would design it.
Well, I'd like to know some more about this situation, but what I know about the situation regarding grants and regarding economic development, this sounds like a perfect fit on the surface to me.
well, I
But
think-
that's just, you know,
Well, that Ron is kind of doing an informal feasibility study and making initial contacts. And a grant writer could complement his work by bringing in grants to, for example, help the partnership between CPAC and the city. So nobody has to pay for money because there's money available to do that kind of thing. So it could be, the grants could be designed and written in such a way that the city would pay, relatively little money for economic development.
and this first one you're talking about would frankly be a good test. The first one you're talking about, this grant for 60,000, sounds like it would possibly be a good test to see if we can talk about this in the future too. So
Yes.
it
Now,
sounds like a good idea.
the next federal grant, the next round of EDA money won't happen until sometime after October. So I always believe that time is of the essence, and the deadline for this one is May 31st, which gives me enough time to do it. But time is an element. Another thing I'm concerned about is future federal funding. It's really iffy. We don't know what the federal budget is going to look like next year. We do know what it looks like this year, and we know that this particular grant program is available. So realistically speaking, it's be a good idea to apply for it this fiscal year instead of next fiscal year.
And you said you've worked with other local businesses and entities? Who have you worked with locally?
I've worked with Adams State University Community Partnerships. I've worked with Alamosa County Chamber of Commerce and got money, USDA money for Fireworks Gallery and a new restaurant in Alamosa. I've worked for Gator Farms, brought in money for a feasibility study. I wrote a grant application for Kay's professional bookkeeping, but didn't get the money this year. And that's one of the, I think maybe the second grant application I didn't score in the past 15 years or so. But that's another thing, is that if you retain a grant writer, one thing that in future, under the phase 2, is, for example, USDA has rural business development money, and downtown businesses could apply en masse for major funding through USDA. So there could be a kind of development plan that shows progression, and so in a nutshell.
Any input on that for us?
Well, I think the program could be valuable for us. It's a pretty tight time frame. If you don't do this tonight, then it's October.
Yeah.
May 31st.
Yeah, May 31st is looming, somehow it's already May. But I do think it would be complementary to our efforts if we get the grant. It definitely would help with continuing our work with Ron, which, so far has gone really well. But, the city has a limited funding base for that. And so, Ron's putting in a lot more hours than he had in his proposal on the head hunting.
Thanks, Ron.
Which is great, and, I think that's starting to bear fruit, and certainly the local business coaching. I mean, I'm really excited that he got a young man who, has a dream of doing a gym and is able to, with the help of, Mel and Debbie, find a space for them to be in. But he was also, with Ron's coaching, able to figure out how to do something that was not as costly to him, so he didn't have to go get a giant loan to make this thing work. So I think finding a way to continue those efforts as they're going forward is important. So when Mariana called me about this, I had her come in, we talked about it, and I said, well, let the council consider it, because I think it is an opportunity. And, now we don't know what the federal funds would be like next year or the year after. I mean, we have no clue, but even if it was a one-timer of $60,000, that would be certainly beneficial.
Well, thank you. I agree. I would move that we accept the proposal from Marianne King for writing this grant.
second that.
It's moved and seconded to accept this proposal. Is there any more discussion?
At a cost of how much? I'm just curious. What's your,
She's got,
50 hours at $65 an hour?
It's 33.
Yeah, I charged $60 an hour for 20 years, and I've raised my fee this year. In big city, in Denver, I would charge $85 an hour. So, I mean, but I decided just out of fairness to me and my expertise that I raised it by $5 in the past 20 years, so. It's substandard as far as some of my experience.
3,250, is that what you mean? Yeah.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
No more questions?
Nita?
Counselor Ellenfort,
Aye.
Counselor Segala,
Aye.
Counselor Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks for your confidence in me.
Thank you. Forrest, you're up for your report.
Well, since we dealt with most of the stuff in there, it'll be pretty quick. Not in my report, but we do have a consultant in working on the finances right now, Debbie Phillips, who has previously worked for the city as the finance director and has worked as a consultant for us before. And she's been in here 2 days and is making some pretty good headway. So that is a good thing. In addition to the planning commission meeting the other night, we had a board adjustments meeting to consider a variance for 1605 4th Avenue. And the board of adjustments approved the variance for the property, not the appeal. The appeal was the rule of law, which was correct, but the variance was granted for that property. And that property is just simply a little wedge of commercial business that has 2 residents on it and a vacant church. And so the variance was a request to convert that use of the vacant church into a residence. And I couldn't find that there was a special review use permit for the church that existed there. And there were no objectors or anything to the public. And as you may be aware, the Board of Adjustments rule is final, which is why you're not hearing that issue tonight. One thing that's interesting is that Monte Vista has been named as a U.S. Treasury Opportunity Zone. And, you know, we kind of wrote, there were some statements from the Valley, and we definitely got approved, which was great. There's a number, well, it's like 230 zones in the state, which are based on census tracts, and our census tract includes basically the city. So, not sure how that will play into everything yet. It gives investment credits to larger investors or different investors. And, you know, Ron and I are going to talk about that some, and I need to find out a little bit more about it. But we did get the designation where others didn't, so that was pretty positive, I think. Also, your packet included with my report is a status update report on water augmentation from our water attorneys, just kind of laying out the ad nauseum progression of water court and our augmentation. So we still got a ways to go on that. I mean, we're, you know, the level of detail that the engineers are going into, it's like, well, here's a water line in 1934, you know, here's a deed, all this stuff, and like, going down to what did it actually irrigate, which is really an interesting piece of research they're working on, but it's required for the court. So we're making good progress on there. You know, we probably won't, you know, haven't ruled on the water case yet. So, you know, we're at least probably a year and a half out from actually getting our augmentation plan heard. But as you know, through the work of our former city attorney and our water attorneys, you know, we're in a good legal status. We've got some good stipulations from the state, so we can do some negotiating on a few of our requirements or obligations that we have. So that's actually, it is sitting nicely. It's just, you know, it's one of those things that continues to cost money, and every month I'm just a little amazed by it, but I think we'll actually do pretty well there. Other than that, I'd like to echo the comments. You know, Rob's crew did a great job. You know, so 2 years ago we had the snowstorm. So we had that bad snowstorm and all the trees broke, which, you know, the great result was we were able to do a bonfire for the high school. So there was a silver lining to that. And, you know, this was kind of difficult. A lot of trees went down, and the crews did a good job, and people were able to, you know, on their private property, get arborists, and most of the mess got cleaned up. And, you know, the citizens stepped up really well to take care of their issues, and our crews did a really nice job. So, were you going to talk tonight about the spring cleanup? I can't. Okay. If I can't, even though Rob's on the agenda, I'd like him to weigh in on the spring cleanup, and we'll get that circulated out tomorrow as well. So if I could yield to Mr. Vance.
Thank you, Forrest.
Thanks. Thanks, Forrest.
Oh, and by the way, Mr. Hurtado is scheduled on the report, but he's refereeing the adult basketball championships tonight, so I'm sure he's rather engaged.
Try to do this for.
That's at the middle school?
Yes.
So I just wanted to touch base and make sure everybody knows Forrest asked me to do a kind of a press release for the Monte Vista cleanup days. Once again, City of Monte Vista is holding our annual city cleanup days, May 11th and 12th. That's Friday and Saturday. The city invites all of the residents to bring their trash and debris to the Public Works Yard, which is located at 384 Sky High Trail. We will have dumpsters set up, and we have agreements with our local trash hauling folks that they will pick up the dumpsters as we fill them and take them to the landfill. Friday's event will go from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. and Saturday's event will go from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. We will take any and all trash and debris, to include household trash, wood, construction products, limbs, metal, non-refrigerant appliances such as stoves, washers, and dryers. We cannot take anything that contains paint or liquids, refrigerators, fuel, tires, batteries, or other items that are prohibited at the landfill. I've also provided a list of things that are not allowed to go to our regional landfill. So, we'd like to take this opportunity to make sure that everybody aware that it is at 384 Sky High Trail. Every year we have residents that think it's a free dump day at the landfill, and that is not the case. If you go to the landfill, you will be expected to pay their current rates for any debris you take up there. The free dump is at the Public Works Yard over by the Sky High Complex. Okay? So, any questions? And we'll try to have all that out for the papers and the radio as far as tomorrow. So, okay.
Good.
Thank you,
Does that cover pretty
Yes,
much
sir.
what we talked about?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Is Anika in there?
No, sir, actually, as you recall, she and Jesse went to Kansas for a training for that $35,000 grant they got. And so they got back kind of late Wednesday. She's like, I haven't written that yet. And I said, well, it's like, they had lots of fun traveling. You can't fly from here to there directly. Anyway, so I said, well, just bring your report to the next meeting, so.
Any other reports?
Days on there.
Oh, that's fine. Just because it's our time.
Okay.
So you may speak if you have something to say. Council committee, city commission, and council reports. You have a report, Kathy?
I do not have a huge report at this time.
Victor?
I do not have anything either.
I would just like to make a couple of comments. It was at the Coffee with Cop meeting this last Wednesday, which went extremely well. Thank you, Rob, for straightening out some of the misinformation that I gave about the cleanup day. But that's, at least we did get the dates right, and so that's gonna be fine. It is this week the National Small Business Week, and I found some information online and got in on some, just one, but webinar. It was very informational stuff. I don't know if you're aware of some of that. I'd like to talk to you about some of that, because some of it is recorded, and I want to make sure it lines up with our economic development. It looks like it does. The one I saw was on, come on, where is it? It's how opening a pop-up shop can help launch your retail brand. I'm sure that's got everybody's attention, but it was very interesting, to say the least. It's also the National Day of Prayer, so I hope you've been praying and will continue to throughout the year. Final thing, I want to go on record, and I hope you're watching, Yuriana, but happy birthday. Little celebrity from our town, if you're not familiar with Yuriana Costa. It's her 13th birthday today, and I just recently saw a video of her very first steps. Her limbs have been painfully, she doesn't say that, but I know a little bit about it, painfully straightened, and she is a trooper and a town celebrity, currently trapped in Denver, because they are done back in Philadelphia. Had a car breakdown, simple thing, they're just replacing the engine. And so hurry home, and she will be back, and I'm hoping to have a welcome home reception for her. She's an incredible gal, a visage of courage and positive attitude that just makes, it's almost sickening. She is just a phenomenal lady, and happy birthday. I wanted to get that on record, and that's all I have to say.
And I changed my mind. I do have something to say. If you remember early on, we approved to accept a small piece of land to make an addition to our community garden. And in the light of our slim water resources this year, we decided not to put that community garden into production. And so I visited with a couple of people who are involved with the community garden, and I decided it would be a great place to do a xeriscape example for the community, because that's what we really are leaning toward anyway. And if you know of anyone who'd like to help with that, or you high school kids that are out there paying such good attention, I hope that you know some high school groups that might come and help us create a xeriscape space out there, to show everyone in the community what we really would like to be promoting. And so that's what we're going to do with that little piece, and we could change it over time if we get monsoon rains for the next few years or something. But right now, we thought it would be a great place to put in a xeriscape example for the community. So anyone who wants to help with that, get in touch with me or with Forrest or with Jim Poston or Wanda Hammond, and we'll make that happen. So that's what I had.
Thank you. For me, well, first off, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I know we've had a lot of challenges in this community, and I still appreciate the support and all the good phone calls that I get. I appreciate that. I want to talk about Arbor Day celebration. We planted 4 trees over there. Had a blast with kids from the Kids Connection. Boy, they got right in there and got things done. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad I could be a part of that. And back again to the crew and Rob for getting the town cleaned up after that nice little breeze we had. I would say that was officially a Winnie the Pooh day. It was a blustery day.
Just, can I make a little statement on that, especially for the property owners? Everybody knows that there was trees that came down. Evergreen trees are notorious for having a shallow root system. So if you have evergreens on your property, really, even though they did not come down during the winds, check them and make sure that if you see the ground around the trunk and slightly outside, about 10-15 feet, you can see cracks or places where your roots have actually surfaced from underground. That's a bad sign that that tree's ready to come down. Cracks are generally a sign of the tree is going to fall. Prime example of that, we've been over on Washington, the 300 block of Washington this last week. And the reason we were there is that windstorm didn't cause any of those trees to actually fall, but it did raise the root system behind each one of those 4 trees. So we wound up having to take 4 trees that actually were still standing upright out because the root system was failing. So something just doesn't mean that all evergreens are bad. It just, as a property owner, just check it, make sure you're safe.
Also want to thank all you high school students for being here tonight. I know it's because you had to, but I really appreciate it. That is all I have. So we need to make a motion to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Is there any more discussion? Rita?
Counselor Sabella?
Aye.
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Oliver?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay.
High school kids, do you want